get tired of being broke, don't get Joe, cause I'm bring your ass to Saints Row. Saints Row, bitch, Saints Row, bitch. If we want it, then we lay it on the floor, bitch. I lie, I steal, cause nobody cares how I feel. But Saints Row, Saints Row, Saints Row, Saints Row. I lie, I steal, cause nobody.
Hello, people from around the world. This is the Infinite Ammo Syndicate's episodic discussion about Saints Row, the series. I am joined with Retro Sheep. Say hello.
Hello. How are y'all doing?
Pretty good. And I'm also joined by Shadow.
Yo, what's up?
And I'm also joined with Antihero.
What up, players?
And for those who listen to this podcast, my name is Shotro. And to get this started, I'm going to start talking about the Saints Row franchise and just ask everybody, how did you get started in this series? So what are some of your fondest memories of this Saints Row franchise?
Well, my friend introduced me to Saints Row just before Saints Row 4 came out. I saw gameplay of them doing Saints Row 3, and I thought, yeah, that's pretty funny. I might get the game. And the game Saints Row 4, which is the only one I've had full playthrough with, as well as all the DLCs. I've had a little bit of a go of Saints Row 3. But that one is now on my top 5 games I've played in a while. So yeah, it's definitely really, I find it really, really good. Very funny.
Yeah. How did you get started with it, Shadow?
I had to remember very far back because I couldn't really tell actually. But as far as I know, I basically got into this game just at random because I thought this was kind of a GTA-like game, but I wasn't really aware of it that it was so humorous. So that was really a big mindfuck, actually.
Yeah. When did you get started with it? The first one or the second one?
Actually, I started with number 3.
Oh, okay.
Which was it's kind of weird to start the series at number 3, but for me that was I didn't feel like left out or anything. I could just get right into it, and it was fun as hell.
Yeah, and I think that was the big catch of 3 was they kind of had a blank slate to work on after 2. But
oh well, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, Antihero. How about you?
Well, I heard about the first one. I just never got to play it because I didn't own the 360 at the time until I bought it like 8 years ago. And then I saw Saints Row 2, and I'm like, I should check this out. And I fell in love with it. Like, it was totally different than I expected. I thought it'd be like a serious tone, like Grand Theft Auto-esque thing. But it turned out to be fun. It had some comedy moments in there. Really fun stuff in that game.
Yeah, I got started from the first game and back in like 2006, I think. And that year was the year of falling through the floor in games. I remember the Hitman Blood Money at the time. I played that until I got to a point where all I did is fall through the floor constantly. There's like a couple other games that did that. And I played the first one up until you were trying to save Gat's girlfriend, Johnny Gat's girlfriend, Aisha. And then I fell through the floor.
Oh, I remember those moments.
And it was on an auto save. And I hadn't saved for hours.
Man.
So my first experience with the series was rage-inducing. And I never like went back to the first game. But it at least caught my attention. You know, it made me want the series to do better. And so when the second one came out, I picked that one up immediately. And that game, in my mind, ended up cementing the series as one of my favorite series to actually play on a regular basis. I picked up every single other one after that. But the second game, I just remember it being longer and more involved and with a much bigger story that involved the characters and the character development. And so I think I have kind of a fondness for that game the most. But then like the third game came out and they went just completely batshit crazy with the fantasy elements and all that stuff. And then the fourth game came around, and of course they went completely Matrix with that. So yeah, I think it's just, I'm kind of getting into the second question, but I guess maybe Antihero should ask that.
Okay, what is your favorite and least favorite game in the Saints Row franchise?
Well, I think I was already answering that, so let me just.
Oh,
Yeah, I think I really like the second game for some reason. It sticks in my mind as the game where Johnny Gat solidified himself as a badass, and the main character also solidified himself as the badass, which he wasn't in the first game. And so I just really like the character development and everything else like that. You guys didn't play it, so there's the death of Aisha, which is Johnny Gat. I just said Johnny Gat's Johnny Gat's girlfriend, and that was such a huge moment for the series up to that point, which is only the second game, but it kind of solidified the reasoning and the rationale for why Johnny Gat just murders everybody for the most part. I guess he's like the Kratos of the series. You don't know after Gat out of hell, but my least favorite, I think, I want to say the first game, just because I never got through it, and falling through the floor was just absolutely rage-inducing. But I was kind of disappointed by the third game, and I know this is going to be a controversial thing to say, but it was just shorter, and I don't know. It just didn't have the character development of the second game, so I think the third game was kind of disappointing to me. And I'll just stop there. But I guess I'll return the question to you, Antihero. What was your favorite and least favorite, game in the series?
favorite one for me has to be the second one. Obviously, it's the first Saints Row game that I played. Had a lot of fun. After I beat it, I went 100% completed that game. And then years later, I come back to it and just get immersed, first time playing it, Like you said, the characters, the fun stuff it had in there. I really liked it, and each Saints Row knows that they don't take themselves seriously, but they had like a balance to it, Like it had some serious moments, like the death of Aisha or Carlos, to the more comedic stuff, like Pierce and the car singing. That was some funny shit.
Yeah.
But my least favorite, I have to go with 3 because not only that the game was shorter, but it just felt like bare bones to me. Like the customization, I felt like it didn't offer much like the second one did. And there wasn't that much weapons. And it's just the story was just all over the place, and it just felt like a freaking sex joke machine, because that's all they were doing, like sex jokes this, sex jokes that. And I did like the over the topness a bit, but I just didn't like it because how different it felt from the second one.
How about you, Retro Sheet?
Well, like I said, the only game I've played fully is the fourth one so far, and yeah, I've completed it 3 times by now, quite within the space of each other. I mean, twice on PS3 when I got it, and then once on PS4, separate platinum list. Gotta get those platinums, but the yeah, it was just such a great experience. I don't know if, because obviously the fourth one went absolute full out batshit crazy, if I might not enjoy the previous ones as much, because I feel like they would have started low and worked their way up to as batshit crazy as they've got. And I really like that element of it, and I'm not too sure, maybe if I go backwards, 4, 3, 2, 1, if it'll just diminish each time. Maybe you can, as someone who's played all 4 games, you could probably shed some light on that.
Well, I mean, are you a Quentin Tarantino fan? I guess is the way someone put it to me.
Yeah, I do like quite a few of his films. Yeah.
Yeah. So the second game was very, very influenced by Quentin Tarantino, like Pulp Fiction and Kill Bill and stuff like that, in terms of what they looked at to write the story, like the story elements and the humor. So I would put that as, if you like Quentin Tarantino, it's worth checking out the second game, because I think it's the most it's not grounded really, but it's the most like, I guess, fully realized version of Saints Row in terms of the initial story that they're going off of, and it has the best character development. Like you got the development of Pierce and a bunch of the other characters that show up later in the series, and Johnny Gat. Yeah, I mean, it's worth checking out just to see where the characters came from.
Yeah, of course. I did consider doing it at some point. Maybe if I imagine there's going to be another game coming at some point, whenever that's going to be. But the when that one comes close to coming out, I was thinking of possibly replaying through all of them, just to see how it is for all of the games in a row in one continuous no break segment.
Yeah, the first one kind of drags on, and the second one kind of does that too. And I think that's why the third one kind of shortened up a bit. But as long as you're having fun, it worked out. Some people didn't like it, so I can't say that you're going to enjoy the second one thoroughly. But I liked it, and I think a lot of people who played it think it's the best in the series. So, but we'll get to that later. Shadow, what's your favorite game, and what's your least favorite?
Well, for me, it comes down to a choice between number 3 and number 4. And I do not count Agents of Mayhem, because that would make it a way too easy choice for the worst one for me.
What about Cat Out of Hell?
Okay, that would also be fair. But I'll say from the main series, let's put it that way. Even though 4 was tremendously fun, I think for me, number 3 was more interesting, because in 4, because you have these crazy superpowers, what you tend to do, at least I tended to do, is you jump around and you fly around, all the time. And what you don't do that much in that game is do these mundane things like driving around and walking around in the streets. And for me, that means you experience much less of these random funny things that can happen on the streets, like people running over each other, just random gang violence on the street. And that's it's kind of sad, because you have these insane powers, the mundane actions that can bring such fun events really take a backseat in 4. So I would say most favorite number 3, least favorite number 4. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. That's a good point. I think they lost a lot when you didn't need to drive anymore.
Yeah, it takes like a complete, like an element away from the game, which is so sad, because there's a much interesting stuff that can happen while driving. There's lots of interesting cars and stuff like that. But yeah, why would you drive if you can just jump like 5 blocks like every second and just fly around? It doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah, I think it's very funny when it came out and Duke Nukem Forever was coming out. I think it was in the process of coming out. I was asking myself, who did that story better, of aliens invading and the president and all that stuff? And I could say that in terms of that kind of perspective, where it's a very similar storyline to Duke Nukem Forever, where that's how I compared it, and that's where I hold Saints Row 4 in a higher regard, is because it just did it better, more insane than Duke Nukem Forever at the time.
Yeah, I mean, number 4 is very funny. There's still these very funny events that can happen. There's like random like Matrix-looking glitches with certain like pedestrians you meet if you actually walk through the streets. In every other game, you would consider these like bugs, but because you're in a Matrix, you're like, oh yeah, that's like totally, because I'm in a Matrix, these people are glitching out. They don't have any heads or stuff like that. That's funny, but you don't it that much. Or maybe there are bugs and they just hit it very well. I don't know.
Well, I mean, the first game had a huge number of bugs. And in fact, like, you go back and you try and play it, and it's absurd the number of bugs in the first game. The second game had a lot of bugs too, and I think the third game was a little bit more polished, if I remember correctly. And then 4, they just were like, well, this engine's kind of buggy in the first place. Let's just say fuck it. It's all glitches. So yeah. All right. So Shadow, hey, do you want to do the third question?
All right. Considering that THQ Nordic, which we actually talked about like in one of the last podcasts, has acquired Koch Media assets, which includes Saints Row. And the question is, what direction should the future of the series go into? And I have to say, I'm pretty confident that it will. Of course, there will be another game since other assets will continue development as normal, like Metro and stuff like that. So I'm pretty sure they will hopefully release another game in the series. And I think, even though I would be a fan of more crazy, I'm not quite sure they even can do like more crazy than 4. Maybe they should go like a step back and try to be more serious, but because they're trying to be more serious, if they put in like crazy stuff, it will be more effective, like to break up the seriousness. So maybe something like that.
How about you, Retro Sheep?
Well, I'm a little bit on the opposite side. I absolutely love the crazy stuff, and I don't know, maybe I would like it to be equally as crazy, or if not, slightly more so, if they possibly can. Purely because that was what really drew me into it, and the humor as well. I mean, the future has got to continue with this humorous stuff and not take itself too seriously anymore. Well, not take itself too seriously. Just try and keep going forward in a more upwards, crazy direction is my opinion, because that's really what drew me into the game and cemented it as one of the top 5 games of my that I've played.
How about you, Anna? Hero?
Yeah, I hope they like restart the series how it was like in the first 2. I mean, yeah, you can keep like the crazy stuff in there, but not like overdone, like balanced out like the second game.
Yeah, I kind of will echo that sentiment. I really like the groundedness of the second and the first game, but I do like the crazy nonsense, and that's why I kind of like the oh man, what is it called? The Professor Genki challenges.
Super ethical.
Yeah, it just allows you to choose to go super crazy. But I wish, I don't know, I want like a happy medium between the craziness of 4 and like the solidness of 2. Like I have no idea how they would accomplish that. But
well, have you guys played Watch Dogs 2? Just as a comparison, because I think Watch Dogs 2 walks an interesting line between memes and stupid references and trying to take itself kind of seriously.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying it shouldn't be that like not crazy, but you know what I mean? Like, because I think there is an interesting balance in that game.
Yeah, I kind of wish they would kind of reboot the series, because it's already taken it to the end of the world and out of hell and all that stuff.
There's no way of topping it from like the end of the world in the Matrix. Like they don't know what to do next.
Or
the end of the universe.
Oh man.
You're going to be landing on different planets and interacting with alien races next. That's the only way I can see it going. I mean, what is that game that came out that Prey? The concept for the Prey 2 will be the next Saints Row game.
Oh man. I cannot imagine, dude.
So like what is your guys' favorite character from Saints Row series? And just give a reason why, I guess. Let me do retro sheet.
Mine would be Kinsey, but I
Good choice.
just why? It's Kinsey. That's I mean, that would be like the perfect sidekick to have. She's like just perfect sidekicker. That even like I know, like you say, Get Out of Hell was like not good, but I quite enjoyed it. I got to play as Kinsey. So
Now,
yeah,
I don't think I said anything like negative about it. I haven't played it, but you know, I think a lot of people kind of thought they had jumped the shark at that point. So, but I like Kinsey too. I don't know if she's my favorite character in the series, but yeah. How about you, Shadow?
Well, considering I have a Johnny Gat statue right on the shelf behind me, I pretty much have to just say it's Johnny Gat. Even though Kinsey is very, very interesting. I have to be honest. Like a few years ago, when I was a bit younger, this was like a very, very interesting character for me. So, like how would you say, like a teenage crush, something like that? Oh yeah, she's like nerdy and funny, and yeah, that's totally the person you would want to have a crush on, right?
Platonic love.
Yeah, right. But Johnny Gat is just so badass. So that's yeah.
We are being joined by Conso.
Yes, good evening.
Yeah.
And I guess I should do my plug right now, my short intro.
Yeah, sure.
So I am Conso from Italy with Food. Good evening, everyone.
Hey,
Thank you
Gonzo.
for joining us.
Sup, console.
Let's just
Hello.
jump into who's your favorite character from the Saints Row series?
The boss, because is the main character. And it's the one we control and the one we make that at our shape and resemblance.
Any specific reason as to why, like beyond that?
No, not really. But I don't really have any favorite character outside of the main character.
Well, he's kind of solidified as a badass as well, who kind of raises Johnny Gat to the level that he's at.
Yes.
Antihero, who's your favorite character?
Johnny Gat, because he's like he's so badass, and you can see him like in the beginning that he was just some punk gangster, but then he shows his badassery, but not to a full extent in the second one, and that's when he solidified himself as the badass of the group. In the third game, which it sucks that quote unquote he died. He went out with a bang with the whole airplane thing. And then finding out that he was coming back and forth, I'm like, holy shit, I'm definitely gonna go back to this game, because I said, if Johnny Gat's not coming back, I'm not getting 4. But he did came back, so I just had to go back to it, see how he came back and survive.
I thought there was like some sort of petition or something, so I can't remember, but a lot of people were angry about his death.
I was angry too.
Yeah. Well, did I miss somebody? Did I miss Shadow?
No, I did. I had to go.
Okay, so I guess it's just me. I'm going to go with an unorthodox character, and I'll explain why, and it might upset some of you. I'm going to go with Pierce. I could just sympathize with Pierce a lot more, and he's the guy who was always trying to come up with like a good plan that would have worked and would have been complicated and everything else like that. And Johnny Gat always like is screwing up his plans throughout 2, and I believe going into 3 as well. I just sympathize with Pierce. I thought he was a hilarious character that was behind the scenes helping you all the way and always trying to do what's right. And you and Johnny Gat are always just like fucking with him the whole time, and that's I can just sympathize with Pierce. I really enjoyed him as a character in the series.
He gets really shut down in every situation.
Yeah, but I just want to say that one of the reasons why is because Johnny Gat is semi-incompetent, and it shows throughout the series. and Pierce is the only one pointing it out. So I don't know. I like Johnny Gat, but he does kind of get his girlfriend killed and a whole bunch of other stuff. Just because his plan is always just barreling in headfirst into any situation as opposed to planning it out. And so I've got to give it to Pierce.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. Could have been worse.
He's the brains.
Well, Kenzie's the brains, isn't she?
Yeah, now Kenzie, but at the time it was Pierce.
Yeah, he was. All right, Conso, you want to do the next question?
All right, number 5.
Yep.
If I'm correct. So, what is your favorite side mission or optional mission in the Saints Row franchise? This includes the Professor Genki challenges. Well, mine has to be, hands down, Septic Avenger. And in fact, I was afraid I would have joined way too late to say it. Because I don't think there are any other games around that give you this kind of the side mission.
Yeah, you said it, and that I think was one of my favorite ones too. So now I got to come up with something new. So,
and well,
can you give a quick overview of what that mission entails? I don't know them all by name, I'm afraid. So
basically, the idea was to get on the back of the septic truck, and spray with shit everything to devalue property and damage vehicles and people.
Nice. You need to go up to statues and just completely cover them in shit, and cover people in shit too, so that they knew it was Altor, I think, and just sully their name literally with shit.
That is.
Let's paint the town brown.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite series. I got to think of something else. Can somebody else go?
For me, it has to be insurance fraud because because I love seeing my main character ragdoll to different places, especially in 3 and 4. Mostly 4 because of the superpowers. It makes it even more crazy. Like you can go to like the other side of town flying, and it's just fun to see. And that's the most fun I ever had with the side missions. Is the insurance fraud for me.
Yeah, same here. And also, I think there was something in one of the Burnout games. You had something similar where you just had levels where you just drive across like a crossroads and try to accumulate as much damage as you can. So these insurance fraud missions reminded me of that, and that's just a whole bunch of fun for me.
But insurance fraud does it a lot better than Burnout does. Yeah,
that's true.
Well,
but yeah.
Cars and the other side is ragdoll physics. So I'd say ragdoll physics have an advantage as far as comical stuff goes.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
You can add lines and of dialogue while they're getting hit rather than just the car.
Definitely.
Oh shit!
Yes. Also, the voice lines add a lot.
The voice lines are funny on those two as well.
Well, I think for me, I've got a couple. I do like the Professor Genki challenges purely for the 2 commentators. I could just listen to them talking like all the time because they're pretty damn funny. I think one of the ones that got me laughing so hard was the one in 4. I don't know the name. It's the one with the strip club. Where your character has a sudden desire to start stripping, and you do the pole dancing mission, and you get, I think it's with Pierce. I think, or he's on the intercom telling you how much he's scarred for life and everything. That one was quite funny. I was in hysterics, I think, when I was doing that one.
I think it's me, right? The only one left.
Yes.
Have you thought on something?
I've
Yeah.
been digging through it, and I'm trying to think of something, and I think all those were great missions. The one that I really, it's not really a side mission. I really enjoyed the throwback to the 1950s in the fourth game. I thought that was
in the
interesting.
introduction.
Yeah, the introduction. I thought
Leave
that
it
was a
to the
great way
Saints.
great way to do it. Then this is just something that I really like about the Saints Row series in particular is the start to 4 and 2 in particular are great starts to the games, and they're not really side missions or anything like that, but it's just the whole escape from Alcatraz and in the second game, and then the throwback to the 1950s. They were both great ways to start a game, and I think was one of the things that really got me into all on board from the get-go with these games was their intro missions. They're not really side missions, so I'm not answering the question correctly, but there's so many funny moments. And I guess the only other side mission I could think of is the freckle bitches missions in the first game were always very funny because it's every single time you do something or you go to celebrate, you have to go to freckle bitches, which is just basically Wendy's, because they couldn't get the Wendy's to agree to let them have their name shown in the game. Actually, I think the entire series probably would have been wiped out if everyone just understood that they all love freckle bitches and got along. All right. Has anyone not asked the question? I don't think so. Let me just
I think it's me, is it?
Oh.
In comparison to Grand Theft Auto, what were your thoughts when Saints Row started being more wacky with their open world gameplay elements, while GTA took more realistic approach with 4?
I'll go ahead and answer first because I think I've been going last a lot. I went to Saints Row, even the first game, just because I wanted a less serious approach to Grand Theft Auto, because I thought they just started taking themselves way too seriously. What was it, the third game? Or yeah, I think it was the third 3D Saints Grand Theft Auto. Sorry, I'm getting the series mixed up, but you like having to go bowling and doing all that other nonsense with Nico Bellic just kind of dragged for me. I couldn't get into the games anymore. I wanted to just go around and screw around and blow crap up, and I think that's why I really liked Crackdown a whole lot, because all you were doing is running around, blowing shit up, and just going crazy. And after Crackdown, I just couldn't get back into Grand Theft Auto because it just took itself way too seriously. So I needed that levity in the gameplay to kind of keep my interest.
Yeah, I think I was almost the same. I played GTA 4, never got into it at all. The game just does not appeal to me that much. So when I actually, like I said, saw my friend playing Saints Row 3, and so it was quite from a first impression, quite like GTA, but funny and not serious at all. I was like, oh, this might be interesting. So when I got 4, man, got hooked to it, completely hooked. So I think that tonal shift between the two games is desperately needed for me to be interested in it, and I'm perfectly happy with Saints Row taking that approach to that open world gameplay that it has.
Yeah, and I think that was the problem that people had with the first game, was that they couldn't differentiate between the two. It just looked like a cheaper version of Grand Theft Auto, and I think that's why no one got in the series until after 2. So, yeah, Shadow.
Well, I think I'm sounding like all of you guys as well. I came off GTA 4, I think it was. And I also said that on the GTA podcast that Nico was my least favorite character in all of the GTA series. Not because of himself, but because he was in the same game as Roman. And seriously, Roman and his constant need for stupid side activities really, really made this game a hell for me to play. And I was also looking for, GTA clones that were interesting and not as like stupid as 4 was. And I think I played like Sleeping Dogs, and then as I said, I got into Saints Row, the Saints Row the Third, because I also thought it was a serious GTA clone, and I always had like a fable for like stupid references and stuff like that. So this fit right into my alley, and I absolutely loved it. To be fair, I never experienced Saints Row without so much mayhem and stupidness, so I can't really differentiate between the like first 2 games and then number 3 and number 4.
Oh, it's there. It's just not as apparent. Just watching it, yeah.
So it's up to me now, I guess.
Yeah.
No, the thing is, I started later in the series, I guess, because I just saw some footage of Saints Row 2 at a friend's house, and then got into Saints Row 3 because it was more stupid, I guess, than Grand Theft Auto. Now, I enjoy both Grand Theft Auto 4 and Saints Row 3. I enjoyed both of them. I really didn't mind the fact Saints Row 3 was more wacky and funny compared to Grand Theft Auto 4. But I think that from 4 onwards, they probably went a bit too far with going overboard. We can say they crossed the line, maybe, from funny and too much stupid. It's not funny.
Yeah, I like I said, I think they jumped the shark in the series and just kept going. But that's also funny too. So, you just have to
Yeah, Saints Row 4 had its brilliant moments, I think, but it was not overall as enjoyable as the third. Probably because they recycled the map and some other elements, but I don't want to go into too much speculation. And played the Saints Row 2, and gotta say, I enjoyed it way more, probably because it was not still that overboard, but still had some fun elements, more or less serious elements.
Anti-hero? What do you think?
Well, I played like the older Grand Theft Auto games, and then I saw how 4 took the route of being realistic, which for me sucked the fun out of it. Because I mean, San Andreas has some fun moments too, like over the top, like you could use a jetpack and all that stuff, and you can still do crazy stuff. But like in 4, it's just there wasn't much crazy to do because they made it too realistic and the driving is too stiff and all that. But when I play the Saints Row, especially 2, it reminded me how like the older Grand Theft Auto titles were, like you can do crazy stuff, and I just had more fun with the Saints Row. I mean, I kind of like Grand Theft Auto 4, but with Saints Row I had more fun to it and came back to that game as more often as I did. So I just think that they just get the balance on like Grand Theft Auto. They just went full seriousness on it.
Shadow?
Wait, I think I already was on that question, wasn't I?
Did I? Retro Sheep. How?
No, I think we've all done.
No,
Yeah,
okay,
we're
wow.
done.
Okay, so I think the understanding is that most people just went to the series because the Grand Theft Auto 4 in particular kind of rounded themselves too much and kind of put way too many mundane elements into it and just kind of drove people away. Everyone had like that appetite for Saints Row at that point. And I think I said Grand Theft Auto 3, but I think Grand Theft Auto 3 started that for me a little bit. And then Grand Theft Auto 4 kind of cemented that idea in to myself. I didn't get very far in Grand Theft Auto 4. I don't remember. Because all I wanted to do is just go and blow shit up like I did in 3 and the previous games. So I don't know. It just, Saints Row was just there for me when I needed it. I guess is how you could put it.
Yeah, that's pretty much for me the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Who wants to field the next question? Retro?
Yeah, sure. Who is your favorite celebrity cameo in the series? I was looking at this question and trying to remember what celebrity cameos I actually can remember from the series. It's not something I paid too much attention to, but I would say the option for voice customization to be Nolan North was definitely something that stood out for me in Saints Row 4 when I played it. So yeah, I'll go with that one.
I haven't paid attention much to it either, and from the top of my head, I don't remember really anything memorable. So I will be skipping this question.
What, Shadow?
For me, there's two very distinctive ones. For one, I'm a big wrestling fan, so Roddy Piper in Saints Row 4 was the absolute bomb for me. And the second one is a bit weird. I think it's Neil Patrick Harris, who is like a voice actor for one of the characters. I think that one druggy DJ, what was it called? I think Veteran Child, is that it?
Veteran. Yeah.
Veteran Child.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing, because I'm not a big fan of the How I Met Your Mother series, but somehow, for some reason, I once looked up what kind of series and movies and stuff Neil Patrick Harris was in, and it turns out he was in Saints Row and in one of my favorite movies of all time, which is Starship Troopers. So that's kind of fun for me to see where that he is in that game as well. So yeah,
Plays an insane druggie really well.
yeah, that too.
He was in the White Castle, so
Yeah. Anna here?
yeah. For me, I have to go with Kid David. I mean, he's like one of my favorite actors, and it's so funny how they make this gag about, oh, you just sound like Julius, because obviously Kid David voiced Julius in the first two, and it was just funny to hear him being like kind of how Julius wouldn't be if he was alive in a way. But yeah, and I like the reference of They Live with Roddy Piper. So I like that one as well.
Yeah, I really like the fact that they made Keith David the vice president in the fourth game.
Yeah.
Because he was Julius. I never was a fan of Julius as a character. I mean, yeah, he's the one who recruits the main character in the first game, but he kind of, he doesn't do a whole lot, really.
He backstabs you, but that's about it.
Yeah, he does do that. My favorite one was Burt Reynolds in the third game, mainly because you get the option between creating zombies or Burt Reynolds' golden gun. And a lot of people, I think, went with the zombies, but if you got Burt Reynolds' gun, which is what I got the first time I played through it makes the game so easy, it's not even funny. All I remember is that it kills anything and everything in one shot. And I don't know if it kills everything in one shot, but I remember being able to take out VTOLs in one or two shots with that weapon. And that's pretty crazy. And plus it was Burt Reynolds. Which
Burt fucking Reynolds?
Yeah, I like how much they revered him. He's just the governor for no reason.
Let's just throw Burt Reynolds, because why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, why not? All right. Question number 8. How about Anna here?
What's your favorite and least favorite weapon in Saints Row? Favorite weapon is the dual pistols, because I'm a big John Woo fan. I always love those dual wielding pistols, especially in 3 when it has the exploding bullets. It's so fun to juggle the dead bodies in the air. And my least favorite has to be the I don't really know, but I'll have to go with the rapid shot pistols because for me it just takes longer to kill enemies. That's basically it.
I think for me, I'd have to go with my least favorite being any of the normal weapons. I'm much more of one of the things I absolutely loved when I played Saints Row was the completely wacky, creative weapons that they had. So some of my favorite include like the dubstep gun has got to be one of my favorites. And I did quite like some of the guns in Gat Out of Hell for the 7 Deadly Sins. The love pump shotgun was pretty funny, and the completely overpowered armchair was it Armchair-ageddon?
Oh yeah.
Yes,
Was just fantastic. Loved those kind of weapons. So yes, for me, completely wacky weapons are brilliant, and the standard ones just never used because they're just boring, I think.
Yeah, for me, it's pretty much the same. The normal weapons became boring very quickly, and hands down, the dubstep gun is the most funny thing in that game for me. And also, it actually introduced me to like dubstep and electronic music because I never really listened to that in the past. I'm more like a metal rock kind of guy, but actually since I used the dubstep gun in Saints Row 4, I actually also listen to dubstep and electronic music. So that's kind of funny, actually.
I think one of the best things about the dubstep gun as well, as being hilarious, is the DLC for the Christmas DLC. Purely because dubstep Christmas music is just fucking brilliant.
Yes.
Absolutely brilliant.
Also, you could like change the song on the dubstep gun, so you had like 3 or 4 different songs.
Yes.
That
If
was
you
just
had
so
the DLC,
fun.
you could get stuff like polka, I remember, and then I don't remember what else.
Even
But still you
metal.
can change the songs.
Yeah.
But no, you go first.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm surprised nobody brought up the penetrator.
That's too easy.
Yeah. I like using that weapon even though it's weird, but still.
It's weak. It doesn't do a lot, but you slowly bludgeon someone to death. Just using it in like stores and everything else like that. I remember that being a very funny experience in 3. I
recall maybe it was in 3 or in 4 that it had that. No, maybe it was in the 4th that you had that special weapon that you could use as an anal probe on people and then shoot them away.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 4.
That would happen.
And then I remember right.
Yeah.
I mean, that was also.
It's kind of on my list of worst weapons, but it's my worst.
Well, yes, it's
weapon
very impractical.
Fondly, it's my worst weapon on my list that I hold dearly to my heart. So I think my best weapon would have to be the katanas. I don't know how much they were used past the second game, but the katana fights and everything were I remember them fondly. I played it again, and it's very clunky and not as good as I remember, but I remember how satisfying the katanas were in the second game. So I've got to give it to the katanas just because, like the scene where Johnny Gat gets stabbed and impaled by one, and all the sword fights against the Ronin in the second game were all some of my favorite parts of this series. So,
As far as I go, do superpowers count as weapons? By the way, because using the superpowers, it is very satisfying. You freeze people, then you shatter them with your super. I don't know how is it called again. Foot smash. You fly. You lift people and throw them around and so on. That's fun. It makes you really feel powerful. But if I went with no regular weapons, aside from that were drops by some special enemies like the grenade launcher or the minigun or so on, I'd probably go for the dual SMGs. with incendiary bullets and all the upgrades. Also because in one of the games you could also give them the Thompson skin, the Drum Thompson skin. And well, I guess you can say that I have a fondness for that weapon.
Yeah, I think also like there was also just, you know, if you want the one weapon that I consider like the best in the entire series is probably just riding the VTOLs and just like leveling everything, because as all you had to do is find one, get in it, and wipe out an entire city block in the third game. That was incredible.
Yes, there was also mission related to it, that you had to cause a certain amount of damage with the...
You had to fight all the tanks and stuff too. And it just kind of... like the third game, I think I really, you know, believe that the third game was a little imbalanced at the end. So question 9, what's the funniest moment you had? Do you have anything else to add?
No, nothing. It was just coughing.
Okay. So the funniest moment you had when discovering crazy things you could do with the character creator for the first time. I started just creating celebrities and also started running around in crazy dresses, but I think everyone did that in the second game. And I think I got that out of my system pretty quickly. So in the third and the fourth game, I created fairly mundane characters. I don't remember having too much wild, crazy, wacky moments. I just remember in the second game, I realized you could just basically dress your character as anything you wanted. And so I went completely balls to the wall crazy, basically made a clown in a tutu with huge giant muscles. Just started running around through the city, like just breaking into storefronts.
Now, I've done, because I'm a very boring person, because Saints Row the third had the option to give the zombie voice, I recall creating a zombie character with the decaying skin and gray eyes and all of that. And I haven't played it for a long amount of time, but it was fun to hear his dialogues going blah, 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 with the other characters replying to him as if they understood everything.
Yeah, like Tasmanian Devil.
Yeah, I have to say back then I was quite sheltered, and as a younger teenage boy, I have to say the sex appeal slider, I think it was called the sex appeal slider.
Yes.
That was I just sat there for 5 minutes laughing when I saw that. That was just too funny for me. As I said, as a young teenager, maybe that's more understandable, but looking back, that is and I know I was sitting there with a friend of mine, and we were just trying around stupid stuff, and that just blew our mind for some reason. I don't know why.
Well, it's the first time it was in a game, I think. I don't.
Yeah,
game
I think today it's more common. I think also like Conan Exiles did it in some other games as well, where you just can choose these kind of things. But back then, this was a new thing actually, which is kind of funny.
Retro Sheet.
I don't really like the character creators, I'm afraid. I hate it. I think my hate for it came from The Sims, really. When you try and create like myself in there, and I look just like nothing, like anything. So I really just never spend a lot of time on it on any game. I think the closest I came to really doing anything character creative was just quickly changing some costumes occasionally. Some of the costumes are pretty good in Saints Row, and some of the outfits that you can wear, but I really did not have the patience to spend much time doing anything creative on it.
Anti-hero?
I always made like my likeness into my characters, but I just got bored. Especially in Saints Row 3 and 4, how you can change that skin color and make it all crazy looking characters. I just put it like I made my character like all red or like all green. And there's an option that you can make your schlong big or small, which cracked me up because I'm like, why would you do this? Like, what's the point of the sex appeal thing? And or especially when you're wearing like these furry costumes, it's just crazy for me. It's like when I'm so bored and I want to do something crazy, then I mess the faces a little bit, make it look creepy as hell.
Yeah, I always thought it was funny when you completely tweak out a character and make them absolutely look bizarre, and everyone's like, "Oh, hey, buddy, what's up?"
Especially in 4 when you're the president.
Yeah, the president walking around and you're all freaking tacky as hell.
Yeah, I always bought like the craziest clothes. I usually made the most mundane characters, but then I always ended up over the course of the game dressing them completely insane. Okay, Anna Hero, how about you take the next question?
What do you think of all the DLCs and expansions they released for the series? For me, like the second one, I felt like it expanded a little more with the story. Like especially the one with the Otor when Dex comes back, because I was wondering about him, and apparently he was working for Otor, and he changed his ways to clean the gangs. And in the third one, I was high for the Dominatrix, but it obviously didn't happen because of THQ bankrupt, I think. But I did like the clone when they had Johnny Tag, because it's just the craziest thing. I felt like, oh, Johnny Gat is not in the game, so let's make it up with a freaking clone that looks like Johnny Gat as a brute. It's just funny to me. And then the fourth one, they showed the Dominatrix. I like how they show like behind the scenes how they wanted it to go this way and how you originally were gonna fight Paul. And I enjoyed it. It was decent. It gave you more time to play the game.
Yeah, I did not get any of the DLC, so I have to skip on this one.
Now, I played the Saints Row 2 on PC only, so you have no clue about the Saints Row 2 DLCs. But it looks like with Saints Row 3 and 4, sometimes they added redundant stuff, I guess. You know, extra clothes, cars that were not pretty much were pretty much useless about collecting them or got the Game of the Year edition or whatever. As far as the campaign DLC, I don't remember much of them, but they really just gave you a few side missions. So I guess they were a good diversion, but nothing substantial. Row 4 expansions, the Saints Row 4 DLCs have some more interest value, because one of them, Enter the Dominatrix, was basically what spawned Row 4. So it's interesting to look at it and see how it would have been instead.
I think for me, I really liked the Saints Row 4 expansions. Enter the Dominatrix was brilliant. Lovely to see some tropes of gaming being ripped to shreds in a comedic way, like the massive health bar of bosses that can be taken down in one hit. Love that. The Christmas one I wasn't the big fan of, but it gave us the Christmas dubstep. So I absolutely love it. And I mean, Get Out of Hell, I could play as my gal Kinsey. So what's more to love there? And I think for that DLC, the Get Out of Hell, in Saints Row 4, the glide mechanics were brilliant, but I think the flying mechanics, personally, I thought in Get Out of Hell, they were much better than in Saints Row 4, and I much preferred flying around hell than gliding around the Matrix City in Saints Row 4. So, yeah, I think all the DLC that I have played for Saints Row has been just great in one way or another. Yeah.
Shadow?
Yeah, I think for me it's also Enter the Dominatrix is kind of funny. And I think in Saints Row 3 there was one Gangsters in Space. That was also quite interesting. It's only like
I
3
think-
missions. But
In Space, the post game, the end in one of the two endings, the one where you let Bane escape.
yeah, it's also a mission. It's a mission and a DLC. It's 2 different things.
Oh, it's a submission end of DLC. Okay,
Yeah,
I may
yeah.
have messed up.
Yeah, I think the DLC has like 3 missions. As far as I remember, it was quite funny. But yeah, Enter the Dominatrix is pretty much the funniest one for me.
Yeah, I think I played the one in space where it kind of preludes to the idea of what's going to happen in the 4th game, but I don't remember it very clearly. Played in a rush, I think.
And I want to add something real quick.
Go ahead.
Like, you know how Grand Theft Auto 5 came out? Saints Row made like this DLC pack called GAT5, which is
yes.
basically like you can wear Gat's clothes or Aisha's clothes. I thought that was funny. I was like, did I just read that right? And I'm like, oh, it's GAT5, not GTA 5.
Yeah, that's pretty clever.
Yeah.
All right. If you had any criticisms about the Saints Row franchise in terms of features that need to be addressed or omitted, what would they be?
I think.
I'd
On you go.
Okay. I'd say go back to Saints Row 2. Saints Row 2 was one of the greatest, I guess, one of my personal favorites at least. So see what the formula of Saints Row and try to apply it to later games. You have the Deus Ex Machina that would let you like go back in time, destroyed, and all of that. So see what you can do. And because Gat Out of Hell was a very underwhelming game overall. So Row franchise could get a better treatment, if you ask me.
To that, I would potentially say I really like the wacky nature of the game as it is. I'd rather personally not go back the way. And to the Get Out of Hell, I'm pretty sure it's more of a standalone DLC than a full-on game. So
Yes, it was.
rather than
such.
it's if it were a full title that you're paying like £50 for, £45, whatever it is nowadays, yeah, I'd probably be a bit underwhelmed. But no, as a standalone DLC, I think it's pretty good. Personally, what I think is pretty bad for the Saints Row franchise is the ending of Saints Row 4. They've kind of written themselves into a shitty little corner that they're going to use some bullshit excuse to get out of. And I kind of wish they'd ended 4 in a way that would kind of have a reason to set up another game and not just, oh, well, time travel and stuff. Yeah, so that's my only criticism of what I've played so far.
And I think one of the things that I really enjoyed about the first 2 games that kind of got left behind over the series is building your gang. I know it was in 3 quite a bit, but I really like that mechanic. I wish, the next game, if they do another one or reboot the franchise or something else along those lines, they would revisit that feature, because I thought that was the coolest thing, to be able to customize your gangs, give them weapons, have them ride with you, go on missions with them. And I wish that was fleshed out a bit more. I think that, in terms of why I like 2 the most is the character development and, how much emphasis they put on like the street level struggles of the characters actually made things more grounded and solid. And you know, they spent a lot more time developing things in terms of the story behind the world and you know how things are working, and you were building things from the ground up. And I like that feeling in the first and the second game. And you know, it's also in the third game, but it's not as forward facing. I wish they would bring some of that stuff back and put a little bit more effort into it, because there's nothing better than actually creating your own gang members and then having them like jump in your car and help you with your missions. So that's just my 2 cents on this matter. Shadow?
I have to say, I really like the craziness that 4 brought to the series, but still, I would like to see them turn it a little bit down in respect to these superpowers, because as I said at the beginning, it makes a lot of the very fun GTA-esque tasks like driving around, walking around, and encountering random stuff on the streets. It makes these kind of like irrelevant, which is sad. So I would say if they want to have these crazy superpowers in the game, you could do that easily with side missions. You know, they could do like some riff on like virtual reality and just have these crazy superpowers in like virtual reality missions and stuff like that, you know. But I really love to drive around the streets and just experience stupid stuff. And if I can just jump over half the map, why would I drive around? So I would like to see them tone it down a little bit in respect of the superpowers.
What about just a thought that I had? What if they have the superpowers implemented into the game, but as a God mode reward for completing the game?
Oh yeah, totally. That actually sounds also very, very nice to me.
Yeah, I could get behind that, because I would not like to lose that. That was one of my favorite things about the game, because if I wanted to just drive around, I would just go to, well, GTA or something like that, the driving game. The idea of the superpowers was something that really drew me into the game and drew me into the characters, because I started at Saints Row 4 and it's the only one I've played, and so I don't know the story behind the characters, but the gameplay was fantastic. And so then, although they do explain the characters, it was more the gameplay that brought me to the game, and I wouldn't want to lose that in future.
Yeah, I thought of an idea.
It would also be an incentive to complete the game and possibly have a new game plus, especially if you can do like other stuff that can be reached only with superpowers and etc. etc.
Oh yeah, totally. That's actually a good idea. Have like 2 playthroughs, one where you complete like a normal GTA-like mission, and then it gets even more batshit crazy and you get the superpowers and you can go apeshit. That would actually be very, very interesting.
Another thing that would work with Saints Row, if it was kind of more like a reboot, was if Altor or some other entity created like a drug that gave you superpowers. And so it would be like a consumable to get those superpowers that's time limited, so that you could reach those places that you need to reach and do those things. And you could also just, utilize it when you need to, or even give it to your gang members. That would be awesome to have like you and 4 other guys running through with superpowers, like jumping up the side of a building or something. But that's all pie in the sky.
Does that not scream microtransactions?
I know. God, that was
no, man. Don't give them ideas. Don't.
That also was what I was about to get to. It's screaming for microtransactions, and I might be shooting myself in the foot there.
Oh, shit.
All right, anti-hero.
Well, my criticism is that they should just like the new game plus, and you can able to replay missions. I mean, yeah, you could do it in the first 2 games, but in 3 and 4, it kind of disappointed me that you couldn't replay those missions. So you had to start a new playthrough and all that. But I wish they added that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I really like in the 3rd game, they basically, just say, do what you want. But that's kind of boring.
But the thing with the 4th game is they have introduced that, time travel could be a thing. So why did they not implement that as we have time travel? Go and play back your favorite missions.
Yeah, yes, that could have been an intelligent way to implement.
Or just
And-
New Game Plus with all the stuff that you already accumulated.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
like
mean-
Shadow.
I mean, replayability would be very nice because also when you create a character, depending on the voice actor you chose, there's like a whole bunch of different voice lines. So you might want to play it through several times with different like voice actors just to see how they react in certain situations. So a New Game Plus would actually be a very good idea for these kind of games.
Antihero?
and also like add more like story to like the post story, like see if something happens.
Yeah, it would be
And-
cool if the New Game Plus was allowing you to play as different characters in the crew. That would be awesome.
Or it'd be awesome to see like their perspective, like during that mission you were using your main character and then focus on someone else and then hear their different thoughts and stuff. That'd be nice.
That's just crying out for a shorter game that you can just repeat in different ways.
Yeah, but
Like in the arcade days.
Yeah.
Totally, yeah.
Imagine you could market it as a throwback to the golden age of gaming, a short game that repeats itself in different waves.
yeah.
You also have to put in a coin every time you want to play, every time you die.
Microtransactions, no.
No, damn it!
You need to pay for it. Download the newest DLC game.
You want to find out more about the background characters? You gotta pay now.
Do you want to buy the ending to this game? Well, you got to replay
Hell
it
no.
and pay money.
It will give you a sense of pride and accomplishment, though.
Yeah. And give them money. All right. I'm just going to read out the questions from here on out. What was your favorite and least favorite gameplay segment in the Saints Row franchise? And I think for me, my favorite, I have so many favorites. I'm not sure if I could narrow it down, but I have a lot of least favorites I could talk about. I think one of my least favorites was when you're hunting down the college kids in the second game. I mean, I love the second game, but I remember this segment in particular was really, really bogged down, where you had to go and find out where the drugs were coming from and going from, college party to college party. I remember that just dragging down. And then I think the whole end of the third game seemed like a big slog to me for some reason, because you were just fighting Altor and utilizing their vehicles and everything was just way too simple for me. But I love so much other stuff about the whole series. It's really hard to pick a favorite.
I think for me, I'm very, very, very sorry. My least favorite section or segment for gameplay is driving around. Like, I realized this actually when I played through Saints Row 4 a second time, and starting from the beginning with no powers at all. I was like, okay, when do I get my powers back? When do I get them? When do I get them?
Well,
please give me my powers. I
in the
want to
second game,
fly.
the mission I was talking about, the whole driving around from college campus to college campus thing was just driving. There was nothing else going on. And just having driving by itself is absolutely boring as dirt. So I mean that's I think why they kind of didn't care if they overrode it with superpowers.
Yeah, I mean the driving in Saints Row 4 is not fun at the beginning. But I mean, when they strip away your superpowers and you have to play the game with driving again, you've always got things like really good commentary going on, like the singing with to pop songs with Pierce in the cars. Oh, it's just brilliant. Sometimes we'd even drive around a bit more just so I finish the song.
I did too. I really miss those parts. I
Yeah.
totally forgot about it. That was one of my favorites. I should have brought that up. I completely blanked out on it. There's a good reason to pick Pierce too as my favorite character.
Yeah. But I think in terms of favorite gameplay segments, there's a lot of great missions in it, and I love playing the missions. I should say flying as well. But I think the beginning of Saints Row 4 was pretty awesome because it not only gave a background of the game with no superpowers as well, a small background of the game with no superpowers, but it also just set up both the serious story-ish and the fact that they just don't take themselves seriously at all, especially jumping onto the rocket with don't want to miss a thing, and everyone's crying over the intercoms. Like, it was just brilliant. I was laughing when I saw it. I was like, yeah, this is definitely a game that I'm going to fall in love with. Yeah.
Now, as far as I am concerned, probably go with the katana boss fight in Saints Row 2 because, well, it's around firearms. So doing a melee in it is a bit more annoying. Our favorite, well, the games have many brilliant segments, so I can't really tell what would be my personal favorite. But maybe, recall, now that I remember from the top of my head, the segment in Saints Row the Third, where you hack into a machine against, I think it was what was the gang that was made of hackers?
I know which one you mean, but I can't remember the name.
I don't
The
remember
Deckers.
the name. Yes, the Deckers. Yes, you had to hack into the Deckers, and you were into that reality. And well,
Yeah.
I remember it being.
Conso, I think you're cutting out.
Oh, I'm further away. I'm talking closer to the microphone now. Is it better?
Yeah, it's a little better.
So I was saying that my favorite, because the game has the games have many brilliant segments, but one that I remember fondly was when you hack into the Decker's mainframe and you get teleported into the Tron virtual reality level.
Oh, is this 4?
It was in the
3.
Oh, it's in 3. Yeah, no, I just remember that there is something similar in 4 as well. I was just confused. Sorry.
No, wasn't there a big boss battle in there too?
I
I don't
think so.
remember that in particular.
I think there's something like that. I remember it being a good boss fight and a good, interesting change of pace for 3.
Yeah, the hacking sequence was one of my favorite moments as well, gameplay wise, because there's so much like techno babble nonsense. And at one point, I think you start off as a tank, and at one point, you turn into a toilet or something like that because of some error or something. Yeah, I like that segment. It's so much nonsense, and it's just a very good break from the normal pace of the game. And least favorite, even though that will sound very hypocritical, but everything that has to do with timed driving, like racing and stuff like that, I hate that. Driving around, just like crazy, stupid stunts and just driving around is fine, but when it comes to racing and being like on point and driving in a certain time, that is something I just drives me up the wall. I just can't handle that stuff because every time, I'm like ahead of the time, then look, that's the last corner, and then I do some stupid mistake and then land in a wall, and then I have to start again. That's just it's a personal problem.
Especially if it's toll gate to proceed.
Oh yeah,
I hate that in open world games. You got to race against somebody, and you have to beat them, and they cheat.
These bastards.
Who has an answer?
Me, my favorite segment is Saints Row 2 when you're fighting, I think it's Marrow, that's his name, with like the monster trucks.
Yeah, I remember that fondly. Oh man, I can't remember everything that happened there, but the killing his girlfriend.
Yeah, you kill his girlfriend because he killed Carlos. That, as much as it was messed up, to me, it was satisfying to do that. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, you don't really kill her. You get him to beat you,
Yeah,
and he's floating about it, and then you reveal that she was in the trunk the whole time.
yeah.
That-
Oh, he
Oh,
kills.
yes,
Okay, he tricks him. Yeah,
yeah.
The slow clap with the shit-eating grin of the main character.
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah.
That's probably one of the most messed up things in the entire series. But it was satisfying.
And my least favorite segment is when Soniac like ruins the song when Pierce and the main character was singing. Just because it was a good gag for the Saints Row franchise, and then Soniac just like fuck it, I'm gonna sing and ruin this shit for y'all. It was funny, but I did not like that segment because it just ruined my favorite gags in the whole series.
I could appreciate it for what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, give your honest thoughts on the Saints Row storyline and describe what you like or dislike. I'll go ahead and answer real quick, but I really like the storyline of the beginning because it's about the building of the Saints Row, and the second game they kind of reset everything because a lot of people didn't play the first one, and they actually do the story right. And then the third game kind of just builds on that and moves further in the right direction, but then they kind of like they take it too far to try and fill out the game. And then the fourth game just goes completely overboard. And now they've written themselves in a corner. So, I appreciate them giving it their all in terms of like taking the series as far as they could go with it. But I think they've kind of taken it as far as they could go with it. So to make another game in the series, they got to do something creative with the writing and the story.
Yeah, I like 4 that in the first 5 minutes you like cure, what is it, world hunger or cancer, depending on your choice. That's kind of funny thing. But yeah, I think the story is a bit all over the place, especially in 4. And as you said, they're in a weird spot right now, and I guess they could resolve it with time travel and stuff, but time travel is always very, very messy, and it leaves a lot of questions open, especially if you don't do it properly.
Yeah, that
Because they put themselves in a position where, well, there's not really much sense in what's next. I guess they have to come up with something very creative to get out of it without feeling it forced.
Yeah, I think, like I said before, the fact they've written themselves into a corner is terrible, and I really wish they ended that game differently. But the only way they can pretty much redo it is if they pick one of the multiple endings of Get Out of Hell, where Gat gets God to remake the Earth and put everyone back on it. But that's just it's multiple endings again, and when it comes to story, I know they don't take themselves too seriously, but it's always nice to know that there is a canon ending to it. And
But
the story, yeah. I mean, the game doesn't take its storyline too seriously either. So, I can't say anything too bad about it.
I think it would be great if
now
they
about that thing,
kind of reboot.
God rebuilding the Earth. I hope nobody will be watching. Nobody from the development team will be watching this because you might give them ideas.
It's a lazy way to do it, yeah.
Well, if they reboot the franchise and they keep it ambiguous and kind of reference each of those endings, I think that would be a great way to go about it. Like, don't make it like 100% canon, but just reference like Gat and the potential that this is all just, this has all happened before or something like that as like a side mission or something would be kind of interesting, just to make people who like to theorize about games, give them as much ammo as they need.
Well, what also would be an interesting a concept would be what about Saints Row, but in like parallel universes, and all these universes then play in like different timelines. You know, like and I mean like extremely different timelines. You could have like a medieval Saints Row and a prehistoric Saints Row, pirate Saints Row. You know, with multiple universes, you could throw in so much stupid stuff. And you could switch between them like at your will, basically. So that could be an interesting idea.
Like Titanfall 2, that the traveling between different timelines, but with different dimensions.
Yeah, kind of. Could you imagine like Saints Row in a medieval city or something like that? That would be stupid. But yeah, you could do some crazy
maybe with
stuff.
superpowers.
Yeah, totally. I mean, like I was just thinking of like what Far Cry did with like Far Cry Primal. You know, just going completely somewhere else. I mean, it's not the best example, but if you have like multiple like universes you can switch between, that could be interesting. But you have to do it well, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm afraid they'd have to narrow the scope down more.
I guess so, yeah.
The same area, but you can travel between various eras with the repercussion, with the changes in with having repercussion on the others.
I like the idea of like a fourth wall breaking kind of, you know, that you are in like a dystopian apocalypse, and then you're right before the event happened, and you could switch between those. And the Saints Row are responsible for whatever destroyed the world, and basically just make a game that's kind of in between, you know, with the events of the fourth game, where the world basically gets destroyed. I don't know. There's a lot of different things they can do.
You go back in time to stop yourself.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And if you have a save of your previous Saints Row on your PlayStation, the main character gets taken from there, so it looks like your main character as well.
Yeah, that'd be a
Boy,
good
that would
idea.
be.
That would be very cool.
That may be too smart. Anyone have anything else to add?
I think pretty much if whatever they make, as long as it's hilarious and the gameplay is crazy and it's a really fun game, I'm going to be throwing my money at it anyway. So
Yeah.
Same.
Johnny Gat in feudal Japan. How about that?
Yeah.
Like
Gotta have Quincy.
they could do like an Assassin's Creed spoof and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's right.
They did it with Metal Gear Solid and with other popular games, so I guess it might as well be possible with romancy options in Mass Effect. In Saints Row 4, support the Mass Effect.
That's where I think
Yeah.
they're going, though. I think they're going for outer space and alien races and stuff. I think that's
For
the
now,
direction.
now yes.
But I think whatever game style, whatever setting it is, I think the idea of this kind of Deadpool-esque approach to it, where you take gaming as it stands and then go, well, what if we change it and take everything you know and throw it back at you as, oh, this is cliche, ooh, we'll make fun of this. That's pretty much where it sits, and it can do whatever it wants. As long as it sits within that bounds.
I'm a super fan of the trope of like the missing sequel, where you basically just start out the game as if like a whole nother game has happened in between. That would be hilarious. And they just reference all these wacky adventures that they went on as they like, you know, rebuild the timeline.
Oh, that could be funny as well, yeah.
You know, you're playing a normal Saints Row game, but they keep going back to like, you know, remember the time we were on a pirate ship, or
And they release it as DLC.
Oh, totally.
oh no, microtransactions. You gotta get a pack that just shows that one scene.
I wouldn't be surprised if game ever happens again to like a spoof microtransactions and loot boxes and all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, they could totally put in some loot box nonsense just for the fun of it.
If it's just part of the
No, that
gameplay
is-
for different things, like different outfits or something, that would be fun.
Yeah, or just as a joke, basically.
Mission dedicated to gathering loot boxes for a certain character, and the joke would be that they have to repeat always the same task all the time for that character, but some strange stuff happens that eventually devolves into something completely different.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ammunition that they have to create a new storyline. It just really just want to see where they go with it.
Back to the drawing board.
Hopefully, a little bit. I wish the ideas behind this series originally that they couldn't flesh out, they go back and they do flesh out, because I think all those ideas were good ideas. The technology just wasn't there at the time.
Yeah, totally.
All right. So to close off this podcast, would you recommend the series to someone who had no idea anything about it?
Absolutely. 100%.
I would have to think that.
But play the second and the third for sure. The others, you can play them at your own pace, and if you want to. Because, well, maybe also the fourth can be in the recommended to play. Sure, the second and the third.
Watch the cinematics for the first game on YouTube, and then play the second game.
But does it really matter? What is the reason for recommending the second game for definite? Is it gameplay, or is it to understand story?
Gameplay.
Gameplay and character development. I mean,
yes,
you really get a bond with like Johnny Gad and Pierce and them, because
it feels the most complete overall.
Yeah, and it's the longest and most complete too.
Yeah, because I would say, I mean, 4 is incredibly different gameplay wise, because even though you have the ability to play however you want, who's not going to fly? So that, to me, it seems like 4 is not a jumping on point, but more of a self-contained story where they adequately explain who the characters are, not in depth. You don't get the storyline really, but it's a nice self-contained adventure. So I mean, I've recommended 4 to quite a number of people, and they've enjoyed it, really thoroughly enjoyed it, and just as a good bit of fun gameplay, rather than being too invested in the story.
Yeah, I would probably echo that a little bit, where you'd probably want to recommend 2 or 4, probably a little bit more above 3. If you played 2, you could go to 3 and so forth. I just think that I'm a little biased. I did not. I came out of 3 a little bit disappointed. So I'm going to be biased that way.
Well, I would recommend both number 3 and number 4, but I would recommend them in the same way as I found the game. As in, I would not tell the people that the game was actually crazy and just let them figure it out by themselves. I think that's way more fun this way.
Yeah, I think so too. Like the second game, you start out really legitimately serious, and then it just devolves from there. So that's why I would suggest the second game maybe above 3 as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of people probably had the approach, even though I told them it was amazing and crazy and brilliant. They probably were like, "Yeah, sure," because my previous recommendation was No Man's Sky, which turned out to be terrible.
God.
Oh, you got there.
When I said play Saints Row, it's amazing, and they were like, "Yeah, sure, sure."
Well, it's understandable.
Anti-hero?
Yeah, I would recommend it, especially the 2, 3, and 4, because for me, 1, like you have problems getting into it, but it gets a little easier. But if you want for the lore, like Shotro said, just watch the cutscenes or like the movie of Saints Row, and then just get into 2, and then so on.
Yeah, I think I really like the idea that you're building your gang and your hideout and actually, like, choosing all that stuff for all your gang members and your minions that are following you around. And that was a great concept that I think in 3 they still had, but in 4 they just completely abandoned. And I really like that idea. And you get the biggest like impact of that in the second game. So yeah, 3 would be fine too. Just basically ask somebody, did you like playing Grand Theft Auto with cheat codes on, or just screwing around as opposed to having to sit through all the main missions? Then you play Saints Row.
That's what I tell them. Like, hey, you want to play like a Grand Theft Auto S, but like really fun, try Saints Row. Especially 2, 3, and 4.
All right, so I think we're going to wrap up now. If I understand correctly, I'm just going to ask everybody to do any sort of plugs that they have, or on where people can find you. And so I'll just go ahead and start with let's go with Kansa.
Conso, I host Conso's Video Games Perspectives on YouTube and occasionally write about video games, music, or shenanigans on vgperspectives.wordpress.com, my WordPress blog. In case you wanted to follow me on my by now dead Twitter profile, I am at vgperspectives. Well, I don't use Twitter much anymore.
Okay, Antihero?
You can find me at Twitter at AHC3D. I just retweet, likes, don't say much there, but yeah, just give me a follow.
Okay, Retro Shoot? Did we lose him?
Or are you muted?
Yeah.
Shite. I was talking and hitting the wrong key.
I do that too.
Yeah, it was stupid. So no, you can find me on YouTube and on my never actually alive in the first place Twitter at RetroSheep08 for both.
All right, thank you. Shadow?
Well, you can find me on YouTube and on Twitter as Shadow1990CH. I do several Let's Play series on my channel, and I do a weekly VR series where I try out new and wacky VR games.
Cool. And I am Shotro. I've been the host for this episode, and I don't have much of a presence right now on social media or anything else like that for video games. I am in the process of building it, so next time you hear my voice, I may have a different tag name that I go off of so that I'm kind of bringing everything together.
Just a quick disclaimer. I am Renegade Operative. I am the co-host of the Infinite Ammo Syndicate. We did this on such short notice, and I appreciate if people would hit the like button, subscribe, hit the bell notification, and you will get more updates about either the episodic discussion, videos upcoming on my channel, etc. Wherever you're watching this, whether it's the Infinite Ammo Syndicate or my Renegade Operative main account. This podcast felt like it ended so abruptly. No offense to any of the participants. I think they all did a fine job, actually. But it was strung together last minute. Our last co-host was unfortunately unable to participate in this podcast, so I apologize. We are showing you guys much love, free entertainment. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the Saints Row podcast. Hopefully you guys found it informative. Leave a comment about your favorite moments about the Saints Row franchise, and I will see you guys next time. Take care, peace out, and enjoy our videos and content. I appreciate it. Once again, thank you so much.